Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio. I'm your host, Tony Fiorino. It is Saturday, April 16th. Well, as usual, an interesting week if your kids watch any kind of sports news. Big story this week, Kobe Bryant. Kobe goes and blows a gasket during Tuesday night's game, and after a technical foul, screams at the ref and calls him a faggot. Now, listen, I don't want anybody to think that I condone anyone calling an official any name whatsoever, but I got to tell you what really surprised me this week was that overall reaction from the media to this outburst. As the father of three relatively young kids, I found myself a bit puzzled as to how I should best handle this with my kids. Well, obviously, I'm curious to know if any of you faced the same dilemma or had any reactions of your own to this outburst, as well as the media's perception of what actually happened. So, as usual, I'll be taking your calls at 855-HEY-COACH. That's 855-439-2622. And, of course, I'll be sharing my own ideas on the matter. Now, also this week, I am joined in studio by Coach Joe Monroe of Wolcott High School in Wolcott, Connecticut. I received rave reviews about Coach Monroe all week long. So aside from being our Hey Coach Tony Coach of the Week, I also invited him in to sit in here with me to share some ideas about the show in general. Hey, Coach Joe, how you doing this morning?
Good morning, Tony. And Coach Tony, I want to thank you very much for having me on today. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, listen, I'm pleased to have you here, and we're going to be hearing a lot from Coach Monroe throughout the show, as well as highlighting him in our Coach of the Week. But first things first, I want to go through a quick article that I read. It was written by Mike Berardino of the Sentinel. It's brief, and I will paraphrase, so bear with me because it's really good. I'll get right to it. The article begins, couldn't help feel sorry for LeBron James this past week. Just hours after he closed one of the biggest cross-promotional deals in sports history, James was forced to explain another bout of alleged bad behavior, but not by him, by his mom. Gloria James was arrested early Thursday morning on South Beach and was charged with slapping a valet parking attendant. Now you add this to a 2006 arrest for DUI, the 2003 infamous Hummer purchase while LeBron was still in high school, and a 2008 sideline rant targeted towards Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett during a Celtics-Cavs playoff series, and you have yourself a history of mama eruptions in the court of King James. And Mike goes on to say, notice I didn't even mention Delonte West's name. Now, anybody who doesn't know Delonte West, we're going to get to that in a second, and you'll understand why I'm giggling. The article continues, considering how LeBron has conducted himself in a highly reputable manner since day one in the spotlight, these parental slip-ups strike me as particularly sad. They also got me to thinking about some of the worst sports parents throughout the years. As this brief list will show, the cringeworthy distractions usually come from the paternal side, but there are exceptions in this parental hall of shame. And here's the list in no particular order that Mike Berardino gives us. And again, no particular order. Number one was Marv Marinovich. This is the father of former USC and Oakland Raiders quarterback Todd Marinovich. He had the kid doing push-ups and drills on balance beams basically before the kid could even walk. Marv later banned cartoons and all junk food in the house, forcing this boy to take his own sanitized cake and ice cream to birthday parties. And according to Mike, no wonder this robo-QB wigged out in his adulthood. Richard Williams. Now, obviously, Venus and Serena have turned out to be the tennis champions their father intended, but it says here that they did so in spite of his erratic behavior and not because of it. In fact, Martina Navratilova ripped him repeatedly for trying to distract his daughter's opponents, often with esoteric greaseboard messages that he would hold overhead. And, of course, who could forget his, and I'm quoting Mike, straight out of Compton victory dance after Venus won Wimbledon in 2000. Jim Pierce. Now, this whack job was so verbally and physically abusive to his tennis prodigy daughter that the World Tennis Association actually named a new rule after him. It allows disruptive family members and or coaches to be banned from tournaments. Now, Mary Pierce, his daughter, eventually fired him as her coach, but he still tried to stalk her on the pro circuit. And I got to tell you, I never even heard of Mary Pierce, so it's obvious that she never reached her potential. There's only, I think, 3 more. Dan Grossman. And Mike actually apparently had an interview with Mr. Grossman back in January 2007. Mike visited the office of this Indiana-based ophthalmologist before his son Rex Grossman started at quarterback for the Bears in his only Super Bowl. Profanity flying, venom spewing Dr. Dan blasted away at his kids' many critics during that interview. He's unleashed similar volleys through the years on Rex's coaches, including Steve Spurrier, prompting the then outgoing Gators coach to famously observe, and I quote, "Well, Brock Berlin's got a daddy too." 2 more. Peter Graf. Peter Graf coached his daughter to the top of the tennis world, but repeatedly embarrassed his daughter, Steffi Graf, off the court. There was an affair with a young German model that landed him in the tabloids. He also attempted to avoid taxes on millions of Steffi's winnings, and that landed him in jail. Now, the last one on this list is LaVonna Harding, the hard-driving trailer trash mom of would-be figure skating champion Tanya Harding, and that didn't really turn out very well. But come to think of it, Tanya Harding's done a perfectly good job of embarrassing herself. Now, as I mentioned, this terrific and entertaining piece was written by Mike Berardino, and Mike is actually joining us on the lines this morning. He is honoring us with his presence. Hey, Mike. Mike, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to Hey Coach Tony on ESPN. How you doing this morning?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. And hearing you read my column gave me an idea if I'm ever approached, which I won't be, for a column on tape series. You're reading it. You're reading the column. You're the man.
Well, listen, I tell you, I love the piece. Listen, I know you got some spring football that you're covering. You got a lot going on, so I really appreciate you taking the time. Like I said, I loved the article. One of the things that kind of jumped off the page at me is what was your motivation for writing it? I mean, you usually cover some very newsworthy stuff. I mean, you've covered the World Series, the Super Bowl, Final Four. You're the beat writer for the Miami Dolphins. Now, by the way, you should expect, I just give you a fair warning, I have 2 brothers who are rabid Dolphin fans. They love your work. So you're going to get a couple of groupies who might be calling the show today to just talk Dolphins with you. And we'll deal with that if and when it happens. But what possessed you to step out of the world of mainstream sports and tread on my turf and start talking about screwed up sports parents?
Well, let me pay my toll first here in South Florida. I know. Here you go. Florida, yeah. My sun pass should be good, sir. What started it, Tony, very simply, was LeBron's mom getting arrested and seeing that there had been a number of incidents, a couple, and they're not massive, but she's not on the line of those others. And thanks for saying that was in no particular order, but because it wasn't. And she's certainly not at the top of the list of the all-time whack jobs. But what it's an indication of, and especially the timing of, it really happened just really less than 12 hours after LeBron was standing in front of the media, myself included, and talking about how proud he was to have this new marketing deal. It's something that nobody had ever done with an active superstar, which is, giving him a piece of ownership of the Liverpool soccer team, and just a reminder that the guy had behaved himself well throughout his career and had earned the right to be that marketable. And then apparent, one of the things I didn't put in that story, that it's come out since that, according to witnesses, she told that parking attendant, don't you know who I am? Well,
famous last words.
Yeah, we've heard that from a few different people in sports history, but usually not from the parent. And so when it's just the parent of the person with greatness, it's about misplaced priorities, and it's about not knowing your place, which is, I don't know Mrs. James. I never met her, but I'm sure at some point I will. But you would like to think that anybody whose child has gone on to do great things, regardless of if it's in sports or business or music or whatever, law, medicine, don't don't tear them down with your behavior.
Hey, you know what? If Gloria James crashed into me with that illegal Hummer, I wouldn't know who she was. If I read her driver's license and I was standing outside a Miami Heat game, I wouldn't know who she was. So,
yes.
I mean, I think that's kind of stupid. Now, before we get off poor Mrs. James, listen, for those of my listeners who don't know, please, for a quick second, those who don't know who Delonte West is, can you please remind us all, and so everyone knows why I was giggling when you said it?
Well, yeah, be careful with that one. And one reason why you don't just come out and say it in print is that it's murky. But there were reports and a whisper campaign, at least, that one of the reasons why LeBron James got out of Cleveland, and one of the reasons, and again, none of this is substantiated, and really none of it has been directly denied either by LeBron's camp, but that the rumor was that Gloria, and it's widely reported last spring, that Gloria James was having an affair with Delonte West, one of LeBron's teammates. Now, we don't know if that's true, but if a lot of people connect the dots, and we're in a dot connecting business, and he had a very bad playoff series around the time of those rumors. So at the very least, even if there was absolutely no truth to it, the fact that there was a rumor out there, and that's all we can say for sure about his mother and a teammate. LeBron has a bad series, and then a couple months later, he just decides to get out of town entirely. It does make you wonder what her role in all of that was. And I feel for the guy, because that's, in any case, if that were true, it would become an untenable and embarrassing situation. Usually it doesn't involve the mother, it involves your wife in pro sports. So,
I don't think I've heard of another. I don't think I've ever heard of another one where a mom was having an affair with a teammate. And what I love? You know what I love about really good writers? Is we just finished talking about this, and in your article, you say you notice I didn't mention Delonte West. Good thing you didn't.
I would have run out of space. It takes too long. There's too many qualifiers in that. You see, I just wanted to lump that in there without being too hurtful. I'm sure LeBron's tired of seeing that, but he knows. I'll say this: the guy's got very thick skin. He's been ripped from head to toe and all around the world and back since last July's decision. And the playoffs start today for the Miami Heat, and he's in a good place mentally. He's already brushed off this thing with his mom. He doesn't hold grudges with the media for sure. I think he's got one with Dan Gilbert, the Cleveland owner. But and maybe he's just had enough practice here with the mom causing these little flare-ups. The Heat can only hope there'll be no more mama eruptions in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, for certain, I think, with the exception of last July when that media circus took place, and we can talk about that another time, I do think that he has handled himself incredibly well for a very young guy who was thrown into the ultimate spotlight at an amazingly young age. I think he's been remarkable, and I can actually excuse the media circus based on that. I mean, most kids that age, where the whole world is hanging on a decision you're making, that's a pretty big deal. Hey, we're joined this morning, as I mentioned, by Mike Berardino of the Sun Sentinel. We're going to go to a quick break. Mike, I want you to hang on because I know we got you for a little bit longer. But before we go to break, folks, if you or your kids are in need of orthodontic services, you got to call my buddy Sean Rooney of Rooney Orthodontics in Mayapack, New York. They're at 845-621-1222. I first got referred to Dr. Rooney from my daughter Sophia, and I got to tell you, I was blown away. From the second we walked through the door at Rooney Orthodontics, we knew there was something different about this place. The first thing you see, video games and TVs discussing orthodontic treatment, so it relaxed her right off the bat. The technology in the office was great. The staff was friendly and knowledgeable. And when we sat down for our complimentary consultation, instead of the cramped and cold-feeling exam rooms that we were used to seeing, it was like we were in his living room. It was huge. And when it came time to explain what had to be done, Dr. Rooney pretended I wasn't even in the room. He talked directly to Sophia, made sure she understood everything that he was saying, and you could just see her tension go away. So as a sports-minded guy, I liken Dr. Rooney to a professional sports coach. He understands the importance of teamwork, education, preparation, and because of this, my kid is looking forward to her next appointment. So I'm a huge fan of Rooney Orthodontics. Call Dr. Sean Rooney today at 845-621-1222 or visit them on the web at RooneyOrtho.com or become their fan on Facebook. Make sure you tell them Coach Tony sent you. You're listening to Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio. Stick around. I'll be right back.